Hello out there, interwebbers! We are Gaming for Couples, and after a bit of a chaotic and hectic summer, we're back with our next video. We had a hard time picking our next video to cover. We had played so many games recently, it was tough deciding what to do first. Don't worry, we will eventually get to all of them. We decided to pick our most recently finished game, Days Gone, from Bend Studios. We chose this one because it's interesting, and in a bit of a unique position. So here's why your relationship needs Days Gone, and also why it's interesting and an odd game to talk about.
We will explain exactly how in just a minute, but first let's talk about what Days Gone is. It's an open-world survival zombie game created by Bend Studios, a smaller team without a ton of big hits behind them to inspire confidence, which to most makes this game sound like an instant no. If this was in early access, it would have all the hallmarks of a crappy Steam game. And while it's true this game doesn't do a whole lot in the gameplay realm that could be considered new, what it does do is incredibly solid and meaningful. The story is a bit of a slow burn, but it never feels padded, and it's all great. There's just a lot to unpack in this apocalyptic version of Oregon. There's a lot to love about Days Gone, but it takes its time in revealing that to you.
The game, just like a lot of its characters, takes its time in opening up to you, which makes the opening few hours a rather uneventful experience. You are dropped into a world without a lot of introduction, and major plot points begin happening before you get a chance to know the characters. A main character is wounded long before we care about him, making his injury and recovery rather dull. Similarly, many of the open world's interacting systems are just kind of dumped on you all at once, and seem disjointed until you begin to figure it out and they all mesh together. I think a lot of the reason this game got such a diverse response from critics and those who played it was about how well they managed to get over this game's rough first impression, and how much the game players were into open world games. If you're absolutely sick of open world games, this game is unlikely to change that, though it is possible because it's that good. And I think that where a lot of the divide comes from, it's one of those games that either is or isn't for you. Much like the main character though, beneath the rough exterior of this game beats a heart of gold, and the good far outweighs the bad.
About the time you ride south for story reasons is when the game picks up, as this is where many more characters are introduced and you begin to feel an attachment to the characters of the game, instead of feeling like a loner riding out on odd jobs for selfish reasons. You begin to work towards something greater. Coincidentally, a mystery begins to unfold which keeps you interested in the origins of the freaks. The gameplay systems also begin to mesh together at this point, creating an open world which reacts to your missions and choices, as well as gunplay becoming incredibly improved as you ditch the starting weapons for more reliable weaponry. At this point, the game caught hold of us and wouldn't let go, leaving us glued to the couch until well past the end credits. The highs and lows of the story beats always had us pushing to do just one more mission, as the adrenaline rush of taking down a horde of hundreds of zombies chasing you is an addicting one. Seriously, taking down hordes is immensely satisfying.
These gripping moments are supported excellently by a fantastic soundtrack. Each mission and major moment is punctuated by different themes that relate to events or characters, but the game is also comfortable with silence, allowing you to listen to the footsteps of marauders or the far-off screeches of a horde you should be on the lookout for. Music will play throughout the open world, but at intervals and always at moments when it's welcome, never becoming intrusive or repetitive. Each track seems to perfectly fit its theme, while also forming a cohesive whole. In many ways, I wish this is how Breath of the Wild had chosen to handle its music, letting different characters have themes and various different open world songs cycle through at random times, without overstaying their welcome, rather than having the same one song for every time you get into a fight or ride a horse and leaving most of the rest of the game draped in silence, or listening to the chords of music randomly hitting you while you explore. If you compare the runtime of both game soundtracks, Days Gone is much shorter than Zelda, but I feel like Days Gone hits harder and uses its soundtracks more effectively.
Summing this game up is hard, because in a lot of ways, what it does sounds like it shouldn't be fun. But it just is. When I saw The Last of Us, I remember thinking, seriously? Zombies? Haven't we had enough of those by now? That was all the way back in 2013. Now, 6 years later, the genre/trope of zombies, or freakers as this game insists on calling them, should be well and truly milked dry, especially after the colossal meltdown known as Metal Gear Survive. But somehow it isn't, at least not in this game. The dissection of how zombies can remain interesting and relevant after so much time in so many video games is another video entirely. For now, suffice to say that Days Gone has managed to pull off a zombie game that manages to capture your attention, rather than feel tired and cliché, which is an accomplishment in itself. They did this by reaching into The Last of Us's bag of tricks, at least partially. Comparisons between the two are almost inevitable. The reason these games draw so many comparisons to each other is more than that they both feature zombies and are Sony exclusives. It's that both games have taken the unique approach of including zombies in their games, but not making them the focal point. Instead, they chose to focus on how the presence of zombies in a post-apocalyptic world can create and shape grounded human stories between the survivors. Notice in both that the zombies are an omnipresent threat, and are always on the minds of the characters involved, but the major elements of conflict happen between people, not against the undead hordes. Though, have I mentioned yet how much fun taking down a horde is? Though by far the most unrealistic part of this game is the Oregonian who somehow knows how to pump his own gas without exploding.
I remember being slightly disappointed in Days Gone for about the first 10% of the game, and utterly in love with the last 90%. And it's difficult to explain why if you haven't played it. Don't let its missteps dissuade you though. Playing this game is a treat and should be given a chance by everyone. We adored our time playing Days Gone. In many ways, it lays the foundation and creates a world and a game style which holds so much potential for sequels to come, and is really impressive considering this is the first game of this scope and size for the team and Bend Studios. This game is what I would call flawed excellence, and with some time, growth, and tweaking from Bend, the Days Gone franchise has the potential to stand at the top of the heap with the rest of the gaming elite. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Let us know what you would like to see covered in the near future. We are always looking for interesting new games to play and cover, so don't be afraid to suggest one of your favorites. Thanks for sticking with us, and don't forget to subscribe to Gaming for Couples.